Imagine that in this worksheet called Projected Budget 2015, we need to make some changes into the text entries in column A. When you're doing editing, keep in mind that when the zoom factor, and you'll see it in the lower right-hand corner, is 100% or less, editing probably is going to be easier up in the formula bar. So if we wanted to make some changes to this cell A8, we could click up in the formula bar and do our editing that way. If you've zoomed in more than 100%, and of course it will change as the more you zoom, the text gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think if you're doing editing, sometimes this is going to make life a little bit simpler. So if we want to make changes here, we can begin the process by pressing F2. That simply puts the blinking editing cursor at the end of the line. If you press Control left arrow, it moves these a word at a time. This is probably not very significant unless it's really a wide entry. You can press End to go to the right side of the data, Home to go to the left side. But let me step out of here with Escape. Suppose we know ahead of time, and maybe the active cell is somewhere else. Suppose we know ahead of time that we want to put in the abbreviation US in front of goods. Rather than simply double-clicking in the cell, that's certainly a way to activate it, or pressing F2, why don't we double-click near the G? Because we want to put US in front of it. So with the active cell being somewhere else, if we want to do our editing in A8, double-click right in front of the G. Type our US in a space and enter. We're all done. It's a lot faster. Suppose we want that phrase to stand out a little bit differently. We can do what's called rich cell text formatting. So we'll double-click perhaps in front of the US or after goods, makes no difference. That starts the editing process. We can highlight our data this way and recognize that on the Home tab, and so what we have available here in the font group are some of the formatting capabilities that we might be interested in. Here's a text color right here. Maybe we'll use red or different colors, of course. Slide over the ones we want. Use this one or find one down here. Unlike in previous versions, this looks the same all the time. In other words, it does look red. We can make it bold or unbold, and italic and underline and so on. So these tools are available to us as we do our editing. Then we just press Enter. And recognize, too, that sometimes you want to select just a word. So maybe in a later context down here, if we simply want to bring out the word office a little bit differently in office supplies, let's double-click on cell A23 in the word office, and then double-click again to select only that word. Maybe we want it underlined, something like that, and Enter, and so on. So there are some editing shortcuts, and again, I think it's best whenever editing, zoom in, do the editing in the cell. It's a lot easier to read, and particularly if you've got commas and or periods, they come out much more clearly if you've zoomed in on the cell when you do your editing.